The games with the Raiders were not games. No, games are fun, you know. These were wars.
This gentleman has been working for 7 years over in Candlestick Park, and that's only 7 miles of water away from that House of Horrors, the Oakland Coliseum.
We had guys that hated them. They would openly say, I hate the Raiders. And then if you talk to the Raiders football team, we hate the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, it's only a game, right? Not this one. This is not only a game. This is Raider Week.
Rivalries, no matter what sport, are built on big games. If you don't play big games that matter to each team, it's not going to be a rivalry. Chicago and Green Bay, that's geography. That's why they can't stand each other. The Chiefs and Raiders didn't have geography, but they had those games in the 60s that created this feeling.
The great storied rivalries in the NFL are rivalries as much for fans as they are for the players. With this, there is genuine animosity, there's genuine ill will, and that's one of the things that makes football great, is in the face of all that, your team prevails.
Kansas City and Oakland, it seemed like it was always a big game. It was always the NBC game late on Sunday afternoons.
And this is the NFL Game of the Week.
That all of America was saying, we got to watch this because it's really fun. They played competitive, important games that meant something.
Even before the Chiefs were the Chiefs, the rivalry began when they were the Dallas Texans. So the rivalry goes way back.
The Raiders the first couple years weren't really a winning team until late in the game. Both teams were just desperately trying to build young up-and-coming teams. They had no practice facilities. I think the guys that survived those early Raider years had to be tough guys. I didn't always think of the Raiders all the time as being the team. The Chargers were a tough team. We didn't have the gritty rivalry with the Chargers, but they were the most formidable opponent in our Western Division. And then the Raiders, they were just kind of a nasty team early on. I don't think they were real good, but they were a little bit nastier than a lot of the other ones. That kind of stuck in your craw, so we developed somewhat of a rivalry with them.
Because of the early struggles in Oakland, the relationship between the two teams was in its infancy. But as the Texans began the 1962 season, led by all-star quarterback Cotton Davidson, the surprise last-minute addition of a young free agent from Ohio would spark the first chapter in this storied rivalry.
We didn't know anything about Lenny Dawson. We knew he had been a really good college player, but he also hadn't played in 5 years. And he just did not look like a football player.
So when Henry was able to get Lenny to come to us, Lenny hadn't played a lot. As training camp went on, Lenny just got better and better. It was obvious the way he was playing, he was getting the job done.
Once he got into football uniform, he started looking a whole lot better. And by the end of the training season, it was apparent that Lenny was going to be the guy.
Dawson trying to get a receiver. Look at that rush on him. He throws.
So once that was established, Cotton became available.
The Raiders were arguably the weak link in an AFL that was still struggling. And they were a team essentially without a quarterback. Lamar, always realizing that the league was only going to be as strong as its weakest link, without Hank Stram's approval, traded Davidson to the Raiders for the rights to Oakland's first-round draft pick in the '63 draft. And when Hank Stram found out about it, he was furious.
Hank liked Cotton, and there was nothing to dislike about Cotton. Cotton had a great arm, he was intelligent, and was a good football player.
Coaches like to coach. They like to cut the people that they want to cut. But owners own. So Lamar Hunt, he was interested in the Dallas Texans, yes, of course, but he was a guy that formed the American Football League, and he wanted to see that succeed.
Hank Stram felt as if it was usurping his authority. He briefly considered quitting, and the Raiders finished dead last anyway. That first-round pick became the first pick in the 1963 draft, and the franchise used it on Junius Buck Buchanan, who is today in Canton, Ohio, in the Hall of Fame.
The right foot on to the 30-yard line by Buck Buchanan. He laid it over that defensive stand.
Buck was, it was a very good trade. In those days, you probably could get luckier on some trades than you can nowadays. There wasn't as much information.
How do I view the trade? Fabulous. They're both Hall of Famers. Who wouldn't want those two guys? It'd be a stoop-naggle if you didn't want those guys on your team. So, it was one of the most fortuitous trades that they ever made. No question about it.
It certainly set a tone of the franchise owned by Lamar Hunt getting the best of the Raiders. Ultimately, they went ahead and won the AFL championship and got Buchanan. It was a glorious fleecing for the franchise, and it probably set the Raiders back a little bit further.